they say, can you explain why you say that the sin sacrifice might refer instead to a purification offering? Which passage are you talking about? Okay, let's stop real quick and let's center the conversation of what this person's talking about. When we talk about the millennium and when we talk about a future temple, there are a lot of different, and I really want to try to focus on this throughout this show in terms of maybe we can try to intermingle the notion that there will be another temple, which we believe, and the notion of what we believe of the millennium. So I believe that Christ will come before the millennium reign. That's where, and I've explored that a little bit. That's what I think is pretty biblical. Now, I'm open for arguments to the contrary, but so far I haven't heard any really solid ones. Okay, so with that said, now, when we read the prophetic books, and you can go to just about any of them, but if you read like the end of Zechariah, or the end of Ezekiel, or the end of Isaiah, or even the end of Jeremiah, what you're faced with is this notion that there is actually some kind of a temple. Now, throughout Christianity, there's been a lot of different, throughout Christian history, there's been a lot of different views on this. And one of those views is that all of the talk of a future temple within the prophets is actually allegorical. In other words, it's not literal. They're talking about allegory. Now, the problem with this is that, especially in Ezekiel, you have numerous chapters that talk about the length of this door and the length of this wall and all that kind of stuff. And no one that in my personal opinion, this is a personal opinion, in my personal opinion, no one has come up with a satisfactory answer that I have found, that I personally have found, that would explain how this is allegorical. It just doesn't make sense how this would be allegorical, because the detail that's put in is much more than what would normally be given for any kind of allegory. Now, I'm going to stop and ask Rob, actually, first of all, thank you very much for the super chat. Love is bigger.
Weights and measures.
You've been blessed.
Oh.
Okay. With that out of the way, now I want to stop because I really want to hash all this out very well. What is, so when we're talking about the notion of a future temple, and I know that you and I are not super well versed. In other words, in Ezekiel, I've never taught through Ezekiel. I haven't written on Ezekiel. I've read Ezekiel numerous times. Okay. And you told me even before we came on, I'm not super well versed in Ezekiel. So I'm not trying to have like a authoritative stance on this, but
I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot I don't understand about Ezekiel.
Right.
And I'm okay. I'm okay with that.
Right.
I'm okay not understanding. I feel like there's other things that the Lord has my attention focused on. And
right.
So, as long as I've been associated with whatever the Messianic movement is, which is well over 20 years now, that's people come with what I call the gotcha verses.
Right.
What about some sort of verse that's like, oh, well, that can't be this. And it's definitely something people look at and try to solve or try to resolve. And so I don't claim to have any insight into how Ezekiel, should be read.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm actually.
Other than the general things that we know, he wrote it in exile. No, there wasn't. So when he wrote it, when there was no priesthood operating in Jerusalem, there was no temple. I mean, there was remains of a temple, but it had been destroyed by the Babylonians.
Right.
He was looking forward to, and God, this is inspired scripture. I believe it's scripture, of a future hope.
Right.
And of course, when the second temple was built, it didn't look like what Ezekiel had prophesied. Even Herod's renovations
didn't look like it.
Several hundred years later didn't,
right.
Which some argue is the third temple, really already is because you have this huge temple complex with all this money. put into it under King Herod in the first century BC.
Right.
And it too doesn't look like Ezekiel's temple. You'd think at some point where there are people saying, wait, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
We got to do it like, so which then we're left to like, okay, there's nothing in history that matches a material like coming or manifestation of this vision yet. And so I'm okay saying this is a picture of what's to come.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Tell us your thoughts on this subject by leaving a comment in the comment section. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and enable those notifications. And we'll see you in the next video.